So we're going to talk about The Wizard of Oz today. Little do we know, most people that like The Wizard of Oz is actually one of the greatest stories of accountability. Hence why we're going to be referencing that throughout our discussion today. It wasn't until the end that the characters realized that it was actually up to them to hold themselves accountable. There wasn't a magical wizard. I think you guys all remember Toto, the little dog, pulled back the curtain. There was a wizard, I think it was in green, was pulling big levers, smoke was flying out throughout the castle. But however, it wasn't the wizard that provided the means for the characters to be successful. It was actually the characters themselves that drove them to be accountable, both as personally and as individuals. The difference between extraordinary and ordinary, which is one of my favorite quotes, is that little bit of extra, right? When we're thinking about accountability, accountability is being extraordinary. If you're below the line thinking with ordinary, we tend to make excuses. We blame other people when we don't receive the results that we want to accomplish. Staying above the line, once again, that's accountability. Always want to keep us above the line, and we're going to talk about how to get above that line and how to stay above the line. But staying accountable is actually a personal choice that you and your team have to make. And it's also mindset, as part of Brett talked about earlier. Often people that have a fixed mindset are going to stay in that ordinary, below the line thinking, whereas you have a growth mindset, you're going to stay above the line with the extraordinary results that you and your team want to accomplish. Let's look at this definition. Accountability, the definition is a noun, subject to having to report, explain, or justify, being answerable or responsible. If you're like me, I kind of want to curl up into like a fetal position when I read this definition, because I really feel like it's like throwing blame, it's a top down. That's not accountability. Accountability, this is the new definition of accountability. When you think about who's responsible for getting the results, this is what you should be thinking about. It's a personal choice to rise above one's circumstances and demonstrate the ownership necessary for achieving desired results. Like, this is one I can get behind, right? I'm not in the corner fetal position sucking my thumb when I see that definition of accountability. So how do you get there, right? That's probably the question everybody should want to know. And hopefully you leave today knowing 4 things about accountability. You got to see it, you have to own it, you have to solve it, and you have to do it. So seeing it, that takes courage, just like the cowardly lion. It's all about self-awareness. Are you getting the results that you want to see? I've seen many good managers, supervisors who are in leadership roles that I wouldn't consider leaders because they had zero self-awareness, right? You've really got to get out and understand where your weak point's at so that you and your team can continue to grow and get the results that you want. So see it is self-awareness, number 1. Okay. 2, you got to own it. You have to own the results that you get, whether you like them or not. Those are the results you got. You have to improve on that. So see it, own it. Number 3, solve it. Solve it is really, Brett talked about this earlier, is really how do we accomplish the results that you want to achieve? And sometimes you got to think inside your box, and I love your analogy, Brett, about thinking inside the box first, because that's that cliche that we all get stuck in. We got to know your own, where you're at inside first before you look outside. But this is the opportunity for you to really get out there and see what other people are doing. Like, do research, do your homework, figure out what that task or project is that you're trying to accomplish, and what are other people doing that have been very successful. Not to get on the soapbox, one thing that really just grinds me is when I hear the word best practice. That word really grinds me. And the reason that grinds me because best practice in my mind is old practice, right? Your job as an accountable leader for whatever your project or task or whatever it is you're working on is to create the new best practice. So see it, own it, solve it, and then finally just got to do it. And doing it is really all about execution. At the end of the day, you're only as good as your results that you receive through your execution phase. And you have to be, it's very similar to what Brett talked about, and Kay mentioned this too, you have to be preoccupied with failure. You cannot lay out a perfect path and think this can go perfect every time, because I don't think anybody's been on a project where everything went flawlessly. So you really, as a leader, or whether it's at home or at work, you have to think through what are some of those fail points, knowing you can't anticipate every single fail point that's out there. But it is your job, if you want to be accountable and stay above the line, to think about what are some of those opportunities that you could fail and be sure that you know how to correct it when it does happen. Wizard of Oz is one of the greatest stories of accountability that's ever been written that most people don't know about, right? If you want it to be extraordinary and not stay below the line and just be ordinary, you have to see it, you have to own it, you have to solve it, and you have to do it. 4 things to be accountable for the results that you get.